Hey ASLers, welcome to another initial Recce report. This time we're going to be doing ASL Scenario 105, Going to Church. Features late war action between some French Canadians and SS. Takes place in August 44 in France. So looking at the scenario card, as you can see there, the victory condition is there's only one, and that is there's a large church, 4 hexes, 12 locations, and the Germans, as long as they have a multi-man counter unbroken in that building, they retain control. So the Canadian objective is to break every German inside that building. Germans are hampered by the fact that they can't leave the building, or at least one squad anyways, because they the minute they exit that building and it's vacant, the Canadians win automatically. It doesn't matter what turn it is. So the Germans always have to have a multi-man counter inside that building, which we'll get to the map. You'll see what I'm talking about. Regarding the map, so there's, and the scenario, there's 2 SSRs to bear in mind. Through the power of ASL, you can change the map to reflect the canal. It's the canal board if you played this on board 23. But the canal's been removed, replaced with level 0 ground. No bridges are in effect, but the road continues through it. And the all the hedges have been turned into stone walls, so you get the +2 versus the +1 terrain effect modifier. And of course, kindling is NA, although mostly stone buildings. There's really not much point for the. Well, I suppose the Germans could start some fires, might help obscure some approaches. But at any rate, kindling is NA, so it's not applicable in this case. And then the second SSR is all the German squads can freely deploy. Normally you're allowed 10% of your order of battle to deploy. In this case, you can deploy all 4 658 SS squads into their half squad components. And thereby you can layer your defense inside that church and hopefully get a lot of concealment. And then the Canadians got to root you out of every location. Canadians, for their part, have 9 squad equivalents, 3 leaders, a heavy, which combined with the 9-2 and a squad is going to be a lot of firepower to bear on a stone building location. You're only looking at a +1 modification. So if the Germans set up forward and up high, they're probably going to get shot to shit. So something else that you have to bear in mind. And Canadians also have a mortar, so they can drop smoke. And this will obviously help with your approach from the Canadian perspective and or obscuring those 658 lines of fire, because the Germans themselves with 658s, you throw in a heavy, you're looking at least at 8, maybe a hero on the 12 table, which is a lot of firepower to whittle away those Canadian squads. So the mortar should probably be used to fire smoke and not so much HE. It's a stone building, it's going to be almost ineffective. And they've also got a DC, so you give that to a leader, and with any luck you can throw it onto a hex and eradicate some pesky Germans that way. And that's basically order, battle, and scenario. 6 turns, not a very long one, and it's a very small one, as you'll see, with only the half board. So let's look at the board itself. This is what we're looking at. At the canal board, again, the canal here has been replaced with open ground, so it doesn't exist. The red line is where the Canadians set up, and to the north is to the right, and the blue lines outline that perimeter that Germans can set up in. Bear in mind again, there always has to be at least one multi-man counter inside the church proper. So bear that in mind when you do your setups and such. And again, all the hedges have been turned into stone walls, offering you that much more protection. So from a defender perspective, I think there's 2 choices you can make here. One is you can skulk back and gain a lot of concealment and wait for him to assault you. Or you can set up forward and help bring some fire to bear before he gets into position and slow down his advance, and maybe some combination of concealment for your half squads in the back as well. So let's see what that looks like. So this is what I'm thinking of doing. I'm probably going to set up in back. We want to clone that. Gain concealment and skulk. I'm going to have one squad forward with a hero and an LMG in case anything does approach. And I'm going to set up probably on the first level here another squad with an MG and a hero. Basically keep everything inside the building and wait for the Canadians to come to me. This is the setup that I'm favoring. Options to consider is setting up possibly something like this. Set up 4 positions. Throw a squad out here. Maybe give him an LMG as well. Set him up forward and then maybe even move into position on the German first turn, depending again what the Canadians do for setup. So this gives you a lot of forward protection, fire lanes, cutting off all approaches. These guys can fall back. Open ground is going to hurt, but eventually once they get into the walls, it might be a little bit safer. Your cutoffs here may or may not die in place, but if long as they take a lot of Canadians with them or delay their assault, then they've done their job. Keeping a couple squads back here to keep the German victory condition, probably not a bad idea either. So you have 4 deployments and a couple half squads sitting back to assuming when these guys here all die, there's somebody that he has to rout out of that church. Rooting them out of the stone building is going to be difficult. There is a lot of firepower. There are a lot of 4, 5, 8 elite squads coming at you, but some combination of this might be a better choice. What I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the skulking method. These guys are going to sit up here on the building, and I'll wait for him to come to me. German first turn, they gain concealment at the beginning of the game because they'll be out of line of sight. And then on the German turn 1 moving phase, they start to filter into the building. Basically spread out like that as much as possible. I still got 2 full squads to offer some kind of local fire support. And then I just have to wait and endure the Canadian assault. So this is the route that I'm favoring, but it's perfectly valid to set your guys up forward and cut off the Canadian. And you might say that's probably a better choice, but I'm going to try this one here, see how that works out for me. From the Canadian perspective, again, you have to set up on row L or to the north. And I'll set the mortar back there. First order of business, your mortar is going to drop some smoke. You're going to smoke off these buildings as much as possible. Depending if you have rate, wrong one. If you can get rate. You do have IR of, a 7 smoke exponent. So as long as you roll a 7 or less, you'll have smoke. You'll need a 7, you need a 9 to hit an area shot. But you need a 7 or less to have continuous smoke. And with a rate of fire of 3, you might be able to get 1 to 3 rounds off before you run out of rate, depending obviously on how your dice roll. But smoking off the front of the church gives the Canadians lots of cover to approach. So how would the Canadians best do this? So first order of business is your mortar drop smoke, obscuring some lines of fire. Second order of business is if you have this guy set up here on the first level, you might be able to hit somebody if somebody's set up. If nobody's set up on the upper levels, obviously it's probably a waste for him to be set up there. So you may want to have him down on the ground. You can put him down here on the road, ready to move, get the road bonus. That way you can move directly into position. However, you might have that option of having some targets available to shoot. Even if it's in the smoke, you're still it's a +6, +4 on the 8 table. Very reasonable chance to at least do some damage and cover your approach. But that's on the prep fire phase. And then it comes to movement phase. So if people are set up in the back, then it's quite easy to using bypass and maneuvers, just get up into position and move into these buildings. Now, retaining concealment for these guys here is going to be very difficult. Even with smoke, this vantage point still offers some clear lines of sight to these road hexes. So H5, you can move into it with concealment still, but these ones you're definitely going to be losing concealment as you move into it, which it's a trade-off, right? Because you only have 6 turns, you have to get moving. And while you are 4-5-8s, yeah, it's pretty strong. You do have a lot of good leaders in 9-2 and a 9-1. You could even maybe throw the 9-2 in the assault and just leave the machine gun back there. This way your 9s are leading the assault. And moving into position with those modifiers, you should be able to withstand a lot of German fire. Because depending on the German setup, if he sets up in skulking, which is the way I'm going to do it, and I'm smoked off, it's going to be very difficult to get any serious fire on this. So maybe that's probably not the best route, but I'm going to give it a try anyways. Yeah, basically Canadians, you want to smoke off the position as much as possible. Then you want to move your dudes in and get into the church and start blasting stuff. That's the only way to do it. You have to root out the Germans, root them out, excuse me. And the only way to do that is either through shooting or through close combat. Now, close combat is going to be dicey just because Germans in this case, for example, have a 7 firepower. You'd have to send in 2 squads and a leader just to have 1-to-1 odds, or 2 squads. So a full SS squad is very tough to fight in close combat because you have to dedicate at least 2 squads to every close combat. So your best choice is probably try and shoot him as much as possible. Hopefully you have enough time to do that and your die rolls are good and you're able to break him, because once he starts breaking, it's very unlikely that he's going to have a chance to come back. Even if he skulks up here and hides up in the 2nd level, he might come back. But again, you're going to keep constant pressure on him. Maybe have a couple of guys here just to keep them under DM so that they don't rally as much as possible. And then once you start whittling away the German defense, and you start occupying the building, it becomes that much harder for the Germans to withstand you. So again, as a German defender, do you skulk and stay concealed? Or do you set up strong up front with some full squads? You try and slow down his approach as much as possible. I think both approaches have their merits, and they've also got their drawbacks. If you set up forward, again, it's easier for them to get picked off because you don't have a lot of squads, only 4.5, so not a lot of flexibility. If you set up in depth, skulking, then the Canadians have a much easier approach to it, and they can bring a lot more fire to bear on your squads. So different options depending on what you choose. Obviously, as a Canadian, this can be entirely dependent, I would say, on how the Germans set up. If they set up spread out in depth, your approach is going to have to be different. You're going to have to eliminate these cutoff points in H1 here, and this one down here. You're going to have to eliminate those to cover your approach, because this is going to be death to cross this. And it slows down the attack. However, that leaves you less forces inside the church proper. So if you're in a strong enough position and you do manage to eliminate these, you're in a better position to bring fire to bear on these, what's left of the German counters inside the building. But again, your Canadian setup is going to be, should be dependent entirely on how the Germans set up. So you have to choose. Anyway, that's enough for this rambling. So this is initial recce for ASL 105 going to church. Scenario archive and roars stats. The scenario's been well played. There's almost 300 playthroughs that have been recorded. It favors the Germans, probably in the 60 to 40 range. 6% favor to the Germans. Because it's hard for the Canadians to root out that last pesky half squad. All it takes is a single concealed half squad up on the 2nd level somewhere that cannot be shot. and you win. You could have your whole Canadian Order battle inside the building. All it takes is one half German half squad, and you lose. Which I think, reading from some of the ARs on Scenario Archive, I think a lot of people do that route. So maybe it's some combination of, for the Germans, that helps you avoid defeat. But Canadians have not impossible, but a hard task to gain that building. But let me know what you guys think. Going to church. If you've played it, comment down below, and your own experience would be really nice. It'd be nice if on Scenario Archive, some of the after actions were a little bit more detailed, rather than just, this setup and good die rolls or bad die rolls kind of stuff. A little bit more in depth might be appreciative. Obviously, it's not necessarily the forum for it. There are other places to go for that kind of information, but a nice, concise, but detailed after action might be better off. So if you're going to fill something in on a Scenario Archive, just try and expand a little bit on the description, so somebody reading it can get a better idea of the way the thing happened. At any rate, that's enough for me. Yeah, going to church in Recce. Next video you'll see will be some playthrough action of this scenario. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.